Oh boy. Oh my goodness, we're doing it. Is this real? Is this yeah, okay. First off, I'll apologize for the very, very bad green screening. I mean, like very, very bad green screening. Welcome to a live show. I mean, wow. It is wow. We're live, man. We're doing it. Hang on. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I gotta grab headphones. So be right back. You definitely think I'd be a little bit more prepared than that, don't you? Nope. Nope. Wow. First ever live show on the channel. Can you believe it took me this long to finally get something going? And of course, I have to untangle the headphone cord because why wouldn't I have to do that? We're going to wait for some people to mosey their way on into the stream here. So yeah, I know it's been a weird, wacky year, right? It's been weird. It's been hopefully you should be able to hear me actually, which is always good news. We'll pop in the old earbuds here, and wow, I am loud, aren't I? We're gonna turn me pretty far down here, I think. Well, or I'm just gonna deal with it. Okay, I think I'm gonna deal with it. That is fine by me. So, welcome to a live show. This is weird, right? How are you? How are all of you doing? Again, I only got one other person in here right now. Or actually, two people. I obviously can't count myself. Well, I can count myself, can I? That's how that works. I'm pretty sure I can count myself, but how are you? Thank you for tuning in. We are going to get down to some college football business very shortly. As soon as we get everybody here and things moving for, people to realize that there's a live show going on. So pretty cool. To be honest, I'll just talk a little bit about me setting up. I really don't know what took me so long to set up a live show, to be perfectly honest with all of you. I genuinely have just no idea what took me so long to finally do this. I've been, thinking about it forever, and to just be fully this is the way that things are going to be. I think we're going to transition into the live show and pull some clips out of it. It's the form everybody is doing now. And so I believe that is where the things are going to end up lying in. Oh boy, we are lagging like crazy right now. I will apologize for any sort of interference that happens like that. I literally have the stream up, so I have to apologize for that. Signal and Wi-Fi has been an absolute bear where I live. A lot of cold weather, a lot of winter storms have knocked things out. So if things go a little wonky and sideways sometimes, we'll just take a pause, we'll take a break, and then we'll make sure to get back into it. All right, we're starting to get some more people rolling in here, but again, I'll continue to keep talking. Just welcome to the live show. We're running this, as you can see, right up there through StreamYard. That probably will be the platform unless I have a change of heart with something. I really went back and forth with the platform to try to use this on. And believe me, again, we're using this as like a little test run, okay? Dummy stream. That logo will not be up there for further streams. I'll get rid of watermarks and everything like that because I know to a lot of people they are annoying. Trust me, they are annoying to me too. So hopefully we can get through this show pretty smooth sailing and clean. I know there might be, again, a couple little things here and there that jump out and some cuts and some lags. Again, Wi-Fi has been weird, so you'll have to bear with me. This really is just a test stream, right? I'm really just here testing everything out, seeing how things work, seeing how you guys like it. how many people file in here, things of that nature. But this is going to be my official college football playoff predictions, guys. The college football playoff starts in just right about under 2 hours now. So we are getting really, really close to getting to the college football playoff. Where have I been? Oh, that's probably a big question. A lot of you may be wondering, where has Nate been? We have been missing your content. This year has been a very big transition period in my life in terms of hunkering down in a new town, getting my first professional job in the sports media industry, so on and so forth. There's just been a lot of crazy chaos. A lot of things have gone on, car problems, again, Wi-Fi signal has been a bit of an issue sometimes. So I do apologize for it. But there is a reason why everything has been slow, right? There is a reason why things have just not gone the way that I've planned, and probably not the way that you have wanted to see the content roll out there as well. But regardless, we are here. It's been a heck of a football season, really has been. And so very, very excited to sort of dive on into the playoff field here. Again, I apologize for the lags and the giddy ups here in this stream. I just think that that's something that's going to happen. And again, I do apologize for it. Yeah, it probably is just something that's gonna go down. That's gonna happen. And again, I will try my best to moderate this whole thing. Again, I've had very little Wi-Fi signal here. We'll get going here eventually, but I do want to start talking about some of the things that have gone on here and that have transpired in the college football world as of late. So Sherrone Moore, I don't have any graphics for this stuff. So, just me sitting here talking. I promise these things are going to get a lot more structured, a lot more sound. I really should have prepared myself a little script for this, but no, we're just going to go right off the top here. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I apologize that videos have not been as structured, as clean, as nice and smooth as I know I would have liked them to be. And it's been a really weird viewing experience, I'm sure, for all of you out there. Trust me, I'm trying my best. I'm doing what I can. I've wanted to do live shows like this for quite some time. And the reason being is it's the way now, right? It's just the way that a lot of content creators are, well, making their content. And I'm not going to sit here and copy styles. Okay. Joel Klatt has got his own thing. Josh Pate has his own thing. College Football with Sam. You have the On3 podcast, right? I'm not here to imitate any of that, but I do see how successful the format of a live show cut down in the clips to view later has been for a ton of content creators out there. And I want to be able to put forth the best type of content for all of you. So that is my reasoning. Jumping into live stream action here and to be moving forward. It is probably going to end up being the format for this channel from the time being, right? Are these live streams? And again, hopefully it is not as messy as this one, because I can recognize that this thing, oh boy, it is not doing too well right now in terms of again, the signal, which again is quite simply a very unfortunate reality to what is going on within my current living situation at the moment. So again, I do apologize for it. We're going to try to make do. We're going to try to get through this thing as best we can. And hopefully, again, it is still a good enough viewing experience for all of you. Again, just a little test, dummy stream. Do not worry. I am going to post this recording, so even if the live stream is not that great, the recording still will be up there. And yeah, so yes, I know the green hair, green screen. It is very bad. I tried to tool with it and do what I could. I have lighting and lamps all around me. You can even see it's like no clipping my hand. So, I mean, I don't, there's only so much that I'm going to be able to do. Just seriously thank all of you for me, for supporting the channel. But yeah, this is my college football playoff prediction video, right? Going through, we're going to be predicting all of the playoff games. And is it few people out yet? It sure looks like it is. All right, friends, give me one. I promise we will get this going and figure this out. Maybe it was on my end that it's struggling, That could be. It could be something that's happening with me, but we're going to try to get this stream as stable as it can possibly be. And it does look like that there is some freezing and lagging going on right now. Oh, boy. That is unfortunate. All right, give me 1 second. And this is what happens when you go with the test. Oh, yes. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I know that you can still hear me, which I'm going to try this. We're going to see if that works any. Yeah, I know that you all. Oh, okay. I have figured out the solution. Okay, so you got a little sneak peek of the playoff bracket. All right. Wow. Yeah, this is going to end up being a really interesting stream. Oh boy. Again, it's just the limitations of where I'm at. And I realize I'm rambling at this point to try to get some people in here, get the viewership numbers up there. Just so that, again, I can have people to interact with. You can have people to interact with in there as well. But first ever live show. For those of you in here, how do we feel? It's pretty astonishing to be sitting here talking to you in real time. I actually might end up taking the headphones out because I am hearing myself really, really loud right now. Yep. All right. Headphones are going away, and I want to be able to have my usual cadence. Sometimes if I'm listening to myself, it just doesn't allow me to do that. See, I already think I'm talking much better to all of you out there. So welcome in to the live show, and we are going to get started here with some conversation. Again, I'll do my best to moderate my own live stream and see if issues and stuff go down. At the very least, put this on as a podcast form. Slip the phone in your pocket, put in the earbuds, sit back and listen, because we are now going to get started with some of the content that I wanted to talk about. And the most brief conversation I wanted to have about Sherrone Moore. Again, with the way that I've been busy and the way that I've had to manage things in my life, I just haven't been able to post as much content as I wanted to, and therefore I have not been able to talk about this whole saga with Sherrone Moore and generally the University of Michigan athletics. There have been a ton of issues within this athletic department as of late. There's been basketball issues. There's been hockey issues. Of course, we know all about the football issues that were going on and are probably still going on in this program. Although, again, we hope that now has come to an end with Sherrone Moore being fired and let go, and now obviously in prison. We're not going to see Sherrone Moore for a long time. I think a lot of people know that, so we can put that to bed and put that to the side. What I want to talk about is really Michigan from a coaching search standpoint, how things sort of unfolded within all of this, because, I mean, man, it's really, really tough. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room first off. All right. Everybody knows that I'm a big supporter of the Scarlet and Gray. I will openly say that. Okay, that's fine. We stay unbiased on this show, though. Okay, we stay unbiased. It's really, really hard to see everything that this Michigan program has gone through, right? From the sign stealing scandal, from just the general aggressiveness that the NCAA had towards Jim Harbaugh. You transition over to Sharon Moore, you see some good years, but there's, some rumblings of stuff going on behind the scenes. Now everything has finally come to the forefront in the inappropriate relationship that he had, in all of the stuff that transpired after his firing. All of it is just terrible. And from, as a human being, feeling for a human being, as an empath myself, while I can't say I have, experienced anything close to what Sharon Moore has gone through over the past week, it still sucks to see him go through that. And, you just hope that the justice system gets this thing right? You just hope that everybody in charge at the highest level does their job in the right way, and the right things happen. That's all I'll say about that. So it is, for the university, an unfortunate situation, just for this athletic program. And, when you get in and when you really start breaking things down, there are a lot of names going around to this Michigan coaching search right now, right? Kalen DeBoer is being thrown around. Kenny Dillingham is being thrown around. Jedd Fisch is there, but he might now be on the way back burner, if not out of the conversation entirely. This is a Michigan coaching search that there are probably some candidates that we're not saying or thinking of, especially guys that just signed extensions. Extensions can lock a ton of people in. I know they're probably going to lock Lane Kiffin in. They probably have locked Mike Elko in too. But when you take a look at some of these other guys that signed extensions around the country, most notably looking at Clark Lee, Eli Drinkwitz's name, I think, can easily be thrown into this conversation as well. This is very much so a coaching search that I think is a lot bigger than we all think it is. I think it's a lot broader, and they're going to some people that you and I might sit here and discuss and say, oh gee, I just, I wouldn't hire them, or, a name that, I never would have thought that name would be on this program's radar. So very, very interesting to see what happens with the Michigan coaching search later on, as the college football playoff winds down and such. I am going to be going through, once Michigan gets their head coach, all the new head coaching hires. We'll talk about them. We'll give them my grade. We'll talk about what I think these new head coaches can do for their new program. And there are a lot in the SEC, one of which is going to be coaching a game in the college football playoff. That's Pete Golding. We'll get into the bracket here in just a little bit. In fact, we'll go ahead and throw the bracket up right now, because I do want to talk about some of the things that I, noticed in this bracket, and just overall general things that the college football playoff committee had when making all of this. I realize that you can't see me. Going to remove an ad. Again, bear with me while I try to, again, moderate my own stream, and I realize that the video quality is probably not going to be the best. Well, you don't have to stare at just me anymore now, right? Shabam, here we go. Here is the college football playoff bracket. Obviously, you see how this thing is structured. You have number 1 seed Indiana over there. So you have the left-hand side of the bracket and the right-hand side of the bracket as well. Coincidentally enough, I think my thumbnail has it flipped. I think, my left side of the bracket is on the right side of my thumbnail and vice versa. I don't know, just an interesting thing that I have noticed. So when you go through and you take a look at this bracket, I think the first thing that you have to talk about is Notre Dame, right? Did the committee get it right with leaving Notre Dame out? If you want my personal opinion, I think that they did. However, the way that they went about doing it, I disagree with wholeheartedly, because with hindsight being 2020, if you really go back and think about it here, was there ever a shot that Notre Dame was going to get into the college football playoff? even though they were ranked higher than Miami. And, at points throughout the season, they had been ranked higher than Alabama as well. Alabama jumped them before they went to go play in the SEC championship game. Now, all of a sudden, you see Miami ahead of this in the conversation, because when you talk about Notre Dame and Miami in a vacuum, it's pretty obvious and clear to see the decision that should come to be, right? Miami beat Notre Dame in week 1 of the regular season. They should earn the head-to-head tiebreaker. They should get the spot for the college football playoff. On paper, I love it. It makes sense. I think Miami absolutely should have gotten in over Notre Dame, and not because I think Miami's a better football team, but the way that you play things out in the country here, you have to set a precedent somewhere, right? And, when we found out Alabama was the number 9, we knew the committee wasn't going to punish the Crimson Tide for playing an extra game, their conference championship game, even though they looked nothing like a college football playoff team against Georgia in Atlanta. However, with Miami, we've seen this team spurt and sputter. They have some good wins. They have some really, at the end of the day, pretty decent losses. Louisville and SMU is not a shocker, right? Alabama's probably got the worst loss out of any team in the field, as they lost way back again week 1 early in the season to the Florida State Seminoles. So, but the way that the committee went about getting Miami above Notre Dame, I just don't agree with. I don't agree with their methodology. I don't agree with the way that they did it, because if you knew you were going to put Miami in over Notre Dame anyway, then why not have Miami ranked above Notre Dame? Make head-to-head mean something throughout the entirety of their rankings. And I agree with the committee in this. Notre Dame was playing a better brand of football. Notre Dame was probably overall, you could absolutely make the case, is the better football team. But when it comes to the Miami Hurricanes versus the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, again, I'll say it, in a vacuum, Miami wins because Miami won on the football field. Metrics were very similar, being strength of record, strength of schedule. FPI, I'm pretty sure, was pretty similar, and just a lot of the other metrics and ways that the committee uses to decide their rankings and who ends up getting in to the college football playoff, right? I don't agree with the way that the committee went about jumping Miami over Notre Dame, right? Make it matter throughout the entire ranking process. Don't, leave the door open. Oh, teams can move around even after they're finished playing, okay? Just because Miami and Notre Dame don't have an extra game doesn't mean that we can't shift these rankings around. Now, next year, that's going to change with an even more ridiculous thing, in that Notre Dame, the College Football Playoff Committee, they've signed this memorandum of understanding that I'd love to dive on into a later show. We just don't have time for it here. I would love to dive into it. And it says if Notre Dame finishes the season as a top 12 team, the committee always goes and ranks 1 through 25. And then based on the selection criteria, again, they select those top 12 teams. But this... You have got to, sorry, I was talking about the memorandum of understanding. I lost my train of thought for a second. The memorandum of understanding says, if Notre Dame's a top 12 team, they're going to get a spot in the college football playoff, which means if it were in effect this year, they would be in the playoff over the Miami Hurricanes, which you could argue some people thought was going to happen. And now Notre Dame, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a temper tantrum, which if you really think about it, it kind of is. Notre Dame pulling out of the Pop-Tart Bowl, which I don't know why you would. The Pop-Tart Bowl, there's more privilege in playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl than playing in the national championship. Okay. I said what everybody else was afraid to say. Okay. There's more prestige in the Pop-Tart Bowl than the national championship game. Obviously a joke, but regardless, Notre Dame throwing that tantrum. Now, as long as they finish inside the top 12, they'll make the playoff every single year if nothing changes moving forward. And so there's the conversation about Notre Dame and Miami. And as far as the Alabama Crimson Tide go being number 9, again, you can't punish teams for playing in that conference championship game. Bam, Alabama gets that 9, even though they did not look good in that game against Georgia. We'll talk more about Alabama in a second. So there's your top half of the bracket. Now, the other thing that I will say was at very least mildly surprising to me. I wasn't like, oh, well, the committee shouldn't have done that. Ohio State, Indiana played a thrilling Big Ten championship game. Buckeyes just looked a little flat and, so on and so forth. But Indiana and Ohio State, I still don't think you saw the best versions of those teams in the Big Ten championship game. I thought both defenses played really well. Both offenses, I think, definitely could have shown some more to desired, especially more on the side of the Scarlet and Gray, the team that lost that game. Look, if you're sitting here and you've been living under a rock all college football season and you're coming and you take a look at Indiana. You're coming in and paying attention now that the playoffs are finally here, and you're like, whoa, Indiana is the number 1 team in the country? We'll scratch. No, don't do that. Indiana is a legit team. They are a legit contender that I think has a legit shot to win a national championship. In fact, I believe they're the second odds-on favorites to go win the dang thing. I think that's pretty darn good. So they're the second odds-on favorites behind, of course, what was the number 1 team in the country for most of the season in the Ohio State Buckeyes. So those two being 1 and 2, again, I do not have a problem with it. I am a little surprised that Georgia didn't end up taking the number 2 with how dominant they looked in the SEC championship game, with overall how flat Ohio State looked at points, just, clearly not playing their best brand of football in that game. However, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, 2 and 3. It does matter for what teams you end up playing in the first round. But I like this bracket. I like the matchups that we got. I think they got it right. Now we got to talk about the bottom half. Again, I think they got it right in the top half, even though I don't necessarily agree with the way they went about it. In the bottom half of the bracket, though, this is where a lot of conversation is going to be had surrounding the group of 5. And there already has been a lot of conversation surrounding the group of 5 in terms of, should we even allow them in the college football playoff? The fact that 2 group of 5 teams are going to be playing. And I've even seen some people complaining and, stating and analyzing the fact that Alabama and Oklahoma play tonight, Friday night primetime. Miami and Texas A&M are the noon game tomorrow. So you're looking at a mid-afternoon game between Ole Miss and Tulane. And then the nightcap is Oregon and James Madison, the game with the biggest point spread. So let that sink in for a second. Now, according to the selection criteria, again, I'll say it, the committee absolutely got it right. And yes, Scotty, Virginia don't lose, and you get into the college football playoff. The ACC chaos scenario that had to happen, right, for there to just be shock waves sent throughout the college football world was Duke winning the ACC. Guess what? It happened. An 8-5 Duke, not good enough to get into the college football playoff. Bam, enter James Madison, a team that never got much publicity all year, was just sort of sneakily hanging around, being that top team in the Sun Belt Conference as they were under Curt Cignetti, who obviously now has taken Indiana to be the number 1 team in the country. And all of a sudden you get a little bit of help from the Blue Devils in the ACC, and bam, you are in the college football playoff. 2 group of 5 teams. It's drawn a lot of ire. It's drawn a lot of, I can't even think of the right words that I want to use, but I know that there's a good percentage of the college football public out there that think this way, right? Of, 1 group of 5 team in the playoffs, it's already maybe a little too much for my taste. Now you're getting in 2. I don't really want to watch 2 blowouts. I'll find something to do as far as maybe a festive holiday activity on Saturday night rather than watch Ole Miss and Oregon blow out Tulane and James Madison. What I will say to those people, it's college football. You catch a team on a bad night, anything can happen. Tulane's a really talented team. James Madison's a really talented team. And there's a reason that both of those teams have gotten to where they've gotten, right? Now, we're going to dive into the way that I'm predicting these games here in just a little bit. So I'll save my thoughts. I think they can get interesting in their own ways. And again, we'll explore what that looks like here later. But as far as the bottom half of the bracket, Georgia getting the 3 again because they didn't jump Ohio State to get the 2. Perfectly fine with that. And then Texas Tech getting the 4. Look, much like the Indiana Hoosiers, the people that may not have been paying that close attention this year and have now turned their heads to pay attention when the playoffs are on. Texas Tech at the 4 is also going to shock those people. However, what I will say, much like the Indiana Hoosiers, give them their shot, man. This team is dominant up front. They probably might have the best defensive line in the country. They have a Heisman candidate linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez. I know he didn't get to New York, but finished top 10 in Heisman voting and is, I believe the only team that we're going to see in the college football playoff field, if not maybe 1 or 2 others, that's top 15 in both passing and rushing offense. They're balanced. They're great defensively. They got all the talent in the world. Texas Tech is a team that can go win the national championship. But the bigger story for me is on their counterpart in BYU, right? Now, you also have to think about where BYU was ranked, right? Going into conference championship week. I believe they were below Notre Dame, but they were above Miami when it comes in terms of where they were seated by the playoff committee in those rankings, right? And so I talked about it earlier, and someone in the chat mentioned it already, but Alabama did not get punished for playing in their conference championship game. BYU did. Now, BYU, when you compare them in the resume, again, in a vacuum with Notre Dame and Miami, BYU probably does lose out. I mean, their option to pick up some good wins, which they have, by the way. You know, they beat Utah this year. They beat Arizona. They finished the season really, really well and exceeded expectations. BYU has got some pretty solid wins on the schedule. None as good as Notre Dame beating USC, in my opinion, because you lost to Texas Tech twice, and none as good as Miami, obviously beating Notre Dame. So I think in a vacuum, that's where BYU kind of got canned, was when you compare them to Notre Dame and Miami. The Irish and Hurricane obviously are going to win out in that conversation. So that's exactly why BYU was punished, quote unquote, in the way that they were. Probably avoid using that word here down the line. But let's start taking a look at some predictions here for the college football playoff bracket. Before we do that, we'll reset the camera mark here. Oh, I don't think I had to do that. I did not have to do that, but you know what? I did it anyway. All right, it's about time. We are 30 minutes into the show. I know this one has been rambly. Again, I promise these shows will be a lot more structured moving forward, but week has been crazy. Wanted to get something on, and we got to get my college football playoff predictions up here. Took you long enough, Nate? Yeah, I know. All right. Let's start breaking things down. We are going to go in chronological order in terms of the way the bracket is getting structured, right? It also coincidentally is the order in which games are going to be played, at least in the first round. You have Alabama, Oklahoma happening tonight, literally in about an hour and 15 minutes. Boy, can I not wait for this game. Now, when we go back and when we take a look at what happened between these two teams in the regular season, of which I am pulling up right now, it was a very similar story to the way, hang on, we'll reset. It was a very similar way to the 2023 matchup, right? It was incredibly similar, or not 2023, sorry, 2024. It was incredibly similar, right? Alabama turns the football over way too much. They just don't play clean. They don't play crisp. 3 turnovers from the Alabama Crimson Tide led to Oklahoma getting some points off that, even though the Tide outgained them by almost 200 yards. bam, Oklahoma was able to get that one done on the road. And Oklahoma's been a very good road team this season, right? They picked up the road win against Tennessee. You got that massive road win against Alabama. But now you get a home playoff game. And Oklahoma's had a fantastic season. That defense is legit. And if Oklahoma's going to want to come on top in this game, I think that defense has got to be able to show their might. Now, I don't necessarily believe that in order to win this game, they have got to force those 3 turnovers again because, friends, I can't tell you why the camera keeps failing me here. Again, signal. We'll blame it on that. But, you know, the Oklahoma defense, I don't necessarily believe has to force 3 turnovers again here to win this game. I just don't believe that that's the case. Now, what I do believe has to happen is they've got to be able to get some pressure on Ty Simpson. All right, camera has failed me. We'll go without it. If it pops back on, it pops back on. Sorry about it. Again, test stream. We're not going to take clips out of this or whatever. Oklahoma's defense has got to be able to get some pressure to Ty Simpson. I don't know that they did that much in the game back on, I believe it was November 4th was the last time that they ended up playing there. And so I'm fact checking my stat sheet right now. Okay, they actually did get a pretty good amount of pressure. 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. I think that has got to be the focal point for this Oklahoma defense in this game. The 3 turnovers would be nice. And if that's the case, I think Oklahoma wins this one going away. But you may not need those 3 turnovers if Alabama continues to struggle in the ways that we've seen them struggle. It's just an Alabama team that has not been sharp. They have not been crisp. They have not been a side that has been really that great as of late. They just have not been that good. And yes, they were able to win the Iron Bowl, but I'm talking about as of late, as in the last 60 minutes of football that they played. Alabama did not look good. They did not look like a top 12 team. They did not look like a college football playoff team. They didn't even look like they were supposed to be in the SEC championship game. And yes, it was a lot of special teams disasters that led Alabama to their downfall in that game against Georgia. But again, the biggest issue from when they matched up with the Oklahoma Sooners the last time, Ty Simpson was overall pretty solid, right? He threw for 300 plus yards, did have a touchdown in there, was making some pretty nice throws. The 1 interception did come at a costly time, and Oklahoma was able to force a couple of nice fumbles. So you take that out of that game back in November, things may have gone pretty differently there because this Alabama defense locked in. The Oklahoma offense couldn't really do much. John Mateer, we've seen him, I think, overall play pretty well, but he has not put up the stats that I think a lot of people were expecting to see beside John Mateer's name this year. I just don't think that has been the case for the Oklahoma quarterback. So really, when you take a look at this game, it's fascinating to try to predict a winner because who do you trust more, right? Me personally, I don't know if I necessarily trust either of these teams individually. Now, could either make a run? Potentially, I think either of these teams can get past the Indiana Hoosiers. That is a fantastic, that's just the fantastic thing about this bracket and this season, right? There's no runaway elite team. Yes, Indiana is the only undefeated team left standing. They're not elite. They're not bulletproof. We've seen them fold this year. The question is if Ohio State was bulletproof, and we found out in Indianapolis, no, they're not. They're human. They can bend. They can break. Alabama and Oklahoma is going to be a fascinating game in its own right, and it's going to be a tough matchup for whoever goes against Indiana. But as far as the purposes go for predicting the first round game, I think I trust Alabama a little bit more here. Now, I know Oklahoma's got the home game and they've got the home crowd and whatnot, but I think in order for Oklahoma to win this game and not get those 3 turnovers, John Mateer has got to start putting up some better numbers. I think it is plain and simple as that. Yes, he mechanically looks pretty solid and he's making some pretty decent throws, but he's got to be able to really step it up here. I think he's got to have his best game this season. Period. End of story. I just have not seen the John Mateer that I thought I was going to see this season, especially with his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, coming over there. And when you really break it down and you think about, why Alabama is in this position, it's because Ty Simpson can throw the ball. And Alabama's been very bad with their run game this year. Here and there, they found their moments, but Ty Simpson torched this Oklahoma defense for over 300 yards in this past game. Friends, I'm going to end up going with the Crimson Tide to win this football game. I think Alabama moves on in the bracket of the college football playoff. They get their revenge from not only this year, but the past 2 seasons. I think Oklahoma is going to be able to get some pressure to Ty Simpson. But I think Alabama is going to be able to do the exact same thing to John Mateer. I think they're going to be able to get him out of the pocket, force him to extend some plays in which, John Mateer has been battling lots of different injuries this year. So you got to be able to get him mobile on the move, test out what John Mateer is fully capable of. If John Mateer beats you and starts putting up numbers that we haven't seen all season, all you got to do, tip your cap to him. But as far as this game individual, I just trust Alabama more. I think their defense is going to step up and make some bigger plays. And I do believe that overall talent-wise, they are the better team than Oklahoma, while the Sooner defense makes this thing really interesting. And again, I can't wait to watch one kick off in just over an hour. I think the Alabama Crimson Tide are going to walk away with this victory, and they'll move on to play the Indiana Hoosiers in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. Bam, 1 down. Let's move on to the next one. The 2 teams that beat Notre Dame in the regular season. How about that? Miami and Texas A&M. I think this is also going to be a fascinating game. I think it's going to be a very even game. I think it's going to be very, very well played. These are 2 teams that I think match up with each other well from a defensive perspective. You got 2 wrecking crews of defensive lines, right? Miami has got Ruben Bain and I mean, just so many other really, really good athletes and pass rushers on that front. And then when you dive in and talk about Texas A&M, they got a lot of beasts of their own, right? And guys that have been putting up some absolutely phenomenal numbers this season. You look at a guy with 11.5 sacks this year in Cassius Howell. Cassius Howell has been a beast this season, man, and he's got a lot of help around him from a community of different guys, right? The Deion Haynes with 4.5 sacks this year. You have Damian Sanford, who's been one of the leaders in the linebacking core for Texas A&M this season. Even guys that have not had much sack production this year. Torian York is a fantastic defensive player. The secondary, led by Marcus Ratcliffe, has got some great weapons in it as well. I could see this being a defensive game here, right? But what I think this game comes down to is, yes, defensive lines, who can hit harder, who can create more pressure, who can make the opposing offense feel more uncomfy, right? When you take a look at sack totals overall, I believe, now I'm going to fact check myself again before I just start spewing numbers everywhere. But Miami's got 34 sacks on the season. Okay. Now, again, Akeem Mesidor, some have come from him. Ruben Bain, he's been a wrecking ball. Ahmad Moten, they just got a lot of big boys up front there. Texas A&M, they, I believe, give me 1 second. I lost it. Again, I promise streams down the line are going to be a lot more structured than this. Texas A&M coming into this game, 41 sacks. So, both of these teams are going to be able to provide some pressure, get to the opposing quarterback. But again, for me, this one comes down to quarterback play, right? Who plays better? Is it Marcel Reed? Is it going to be Carson Beck? I think that's going to be the determining factor on who wins this game. And we've seen it time and time again. We especially saw it in that game against Texas. We saw it in the game against Louisville for Texas for Texas A&M, and against Louisville for Miami, right? Both of these quarterbacks have beat themselves and beat their own team with the mistakes, and especially with the picks, right? Marcel Reed throwing the interceptions against Texas, and even going back to his Georgia days, when Carson Beck doesn't have it and he's not able to consistently find that open receiver, it's going to be a bad game, right? You cannot afford either of these quarterbacks to be turnover prone and be mistake happy. You have to be mistake free. And I think whichever quarterback does a better job at doing that is going to help their team win the game. They both got weapons, right? Le'Veon Moss, you pair him in the backfield with Ruben Owens. Those guys have been fantastic. We know Marcel Reed can get out of the pocket and run a little bit there as well. Texas A&M has got some great wide receiver weapons for Marcel Reed to throw to. Former NC State Wolfpack Casey Concepcion, Mario Craver has been spectacular. Bethel Roman has been a great wide receiving threat for the team this year as well. But then you take a look at Miami, and again, they too have got some weapons. Marcus Fletcher on the ground. You can even pair him a little bit with Chamar Brown, but it's the wide receivers that also get the things done for Miami. Almost 1,000 receiving yards for Malachi Toney. The 5'11 freshman has been fantastic this year. CJ Daniels just makes ridiculous catches. It's like every time he gets his paws on the ball. Keelan Marion is that senior leader in this wide receiver group. So there's talent dispersed here throughout both sides, right? I think this is probably the most even matchup of round one of the playoffs. You could argue Oklahoma and Alabama, but I'm going to go with this one right here. Two thrilling to watch defensive fronts. You got secondaries that are pretty solid as well. And then offensively, quarterbacks that can have some dull moments, but overall are pretty darn solid. And, you know, you expand it into the weapons that they have. Both teams can do it all. I think Texas A&M is a whole lot more balanced than Miami, and this might seem counterintuitive to what we've seen throughout their career, but I believe that Carson Beck is going to be the sharper quarterback here. I think Carson Beck is going to be less turnover happy, and I think Miami is going to win this game. I think Miami is going to end up moving on here to play Ohio State in the quarterfinals. Again, I think Carson Beck ends up having himself the better day. I think he's the better quarterback here. From an overall standpoint, I like Marcel Reed, and I think he can take his team to a win in this game. He's got the weapons to do it with the defense on the other side of the line. All they got to do is give him that shot, but I trust Carson Beck a little bit more, and he's done it in the big games. Now, you remember last year, didn't really get much of a chance in the college football playoff, at least in the second half, to help resurrect his Georgia Bulldogs. Didn't even play that well in that game, but he got hurt, right? He's played in those big moments. He's played in the SEC title games. He's played in, some really important games while he was at the University of Georgia. He can, he's going to get the shot to play in the important game here, and it's a Texas Tech to be fair, it's a Miami program that has not been here in a long time either, in a spot to go win a championship. But for Texas A&M, you can question their schedule all you want. You can do the same thing with Miami simply because of the conference that they play in. And I know people that do that. But I think Carson Beck, not only is he more veteran, more experienced, I think he's just going to have his squad more ready to play this game. And that's why I think Miami is going to come out on top. So defensive fronts, I think are going to be really, really fun to watch tomorrow at noon. But I do believe that even with the 12th man behind him at Kyle Field, you probably wish you would have had a 13th man, because I think Miami is going to come in there and get that win. Now, what's interesting about my prediction so far, we had no road teams win first round games last season. I'm already predicting 2 to start out the college football playoff, but I think it's pretty simple and easy to see where I'm going to be going with my next 2 picks. So I'm going to flash them up on the screen at the same time, because I don't think it's much of a mystery that Ole Miss in all likelihood, probably going to get the better of Tulane. And of course, the biggest point spread on the board. Last time I looked, Oregon was favored by over 3 touchdowns. They should beat James Madison. Now, James Madison, I don't think stands much of a chance, while I do think they can do some things to make it interesting. I think Alonzo Barnett has had himself a really good season and is a good quarterback with good weapons surrounding him, right? This is the James Madison team that, look, is still very talented. You have a junior running back in Wayne Knight that's posted over 1,200 yards this season. He's been spectacular. Barnett can do it on the ground as well. 14 rushing touchdowns, leads this Duke team. They've got a ton of wide receiver weapons. It's not 1 or 2 guys like they used to have when Elijah Surratt was back on that team with Curt Cignetti. I mean, you have Ellis, DeGennaro. Waylon Knight can catch passes. Sorry, not Waylon. Thinking, I don't know why that came to mind. Wayne Knight, can catch passes out of the backfield there as well. And the James Madison defense, generally speaking, has been a pretty darn solid unit this year. They've had some hiccups here and there, but James Madison, sure, not as battle tested as Oregon, and they're not as talented as this Ducks team either. Dante Moore is really stinking good, man, and I believe that he's finally going to turn it on in his fullest capacity consistently. And especially if Oregon can get that wide receiver core healthy, I'm not too sure where the health status stands at this point in time. But if they can get some of those guys back, I don't think they'll need them for James Madison. I think they can manage without him. But especially getting them back and at least getting them some snaps and getting them into the rhythm, I think is probably going to end up being pretty darn good for that team. So Oregon, I think, is going to take care of business against James Madison. Maybe the Dukes keep it close for a quarter and a half, if that. But I think Oregon's going to be able to run away from this thing, and the Ducks will go play Texas Tech, which is just going to be a fascinating game, mind you. But again, we'll get there when we get there. The other one, Ole Miss and Tulane. It is by far and away maybe not going to be the most competitive or interesting to some. I'm going to go with the term competitive because this is the most interesting match to me in the first round of the college football playoff. This is an Ole Miss team that, okay, where do they go from here? Lane Kiffin is obviously off to LSU. Pete Golding is the head coach now, also still going to be coaching the defense. You just don't know what frame and mentality Ole Miss is going to be in with, how everything unfolded with Lane Kiffin. I am not going to assume anything otherwise than they're going to be the team that we've seen on the field all season long, which means Trinidad Chambliss, who has stepped in, right? We all thought, Austin Simmons. It was going to be Austin Simmons' time and Austin Simmons' show when things got underway in Oxford this year, and that has just quite simply not been the case. It has been Trinidad Chambliss, the Ferris State transfer from D2, knows a thing or two about winning a national championship, did it with the Bulldogs last season. And Ferris State, by the way, can go win another one this Saturday as well. This is an Ole Miss team that I think is going to come ready to go and ready to play, but Ole Miss has played Tulane over the past couple of seasons. The Green Wave do have a win over a Power 4 conference champion in the Duke Blue Devils. So this is going to be a fascinating game to see how Tulane competes, but the same conversation you can have with Lane Kiffin, you're going to have with John Sumrall there as well. John Sumrall may very well be in that mentality of, okay, trying to prepare for 2 jobs at once because he's got everything going on at Florida, is trying to prepare for, to play in the college football playoff. There's a lot going on. So I believe that when you look at this matchup, Ole Miss is the more talented team. Yes, I know the drama going on with Lane Kiffin. The team is still going to be the team, right? They're still going to, have Trinidad Chambliss running the ball up and down the field, making some impeccable throws, burning some highly proficient runs on you. And this Ole Miss defense, I think, is going to end up just playing their part, doing enough, playing complementary football to get this one done. So that leaves you with Alabama at Indiana. Sorry, not at Indiana. neutral sites now. In fact, I'll pull up where those neutral sites are going to end up being here. But the Indiana Hoosiers, I believe, will be playing the Alabama Crimson Tide, and I believe that they will be getting them, or not believe, I know they'll be getting them in the Rose Bowl. So how about this, man? You're going to get Indiana going to Pasadena. Love it. Absolutely love it. Now, the interesting thing that comes with breaking down this game, and again, I'm not going to spend too much time on these quarterfinal, semifinal, championship games. I really wanted to break down the first round games for all of you today. You know, just to be able to really dissect those and provide the full context of who I think is going to win here over the next couple of days. For Indiana and Alabama, again, how much do you want to trust the Crimson Tide? Because from a talent standpoint, they match up with Indiana really well. But I think the Hoosiers do too many things that they're going to throw this Alabama team off rhythm. I think they're great at being able to provide pressure. Fernando Mendoza obviously just won the Heisman Trophy. And he's got some grade A studs surrounding him. Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper. They've got some really good weapons in the running back room as well. Defense is filled with studs up and down the field. And I just think that they provide a little bit too much for Alabama to handle. So I am going to go with the Indiana Hoosiers to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think they move on in the college football playoff. And the Hoosiers prove that they are the real deal. They knock down the Crimson Tide, the mighty Crimson Tide. Ohio State Miami is interesting for kind of the reasons that Indiana gave Ohio State struggles, right? Indiana gave Ohio State struggles by being able to provide pressure, mixed up some different things with their defensive schemes. And I think Miami is fully capable of doing that. You heard me say it a moment ago, 34 sacks on the season. They have lots of big guys that can take it to this Ohio State offensive line that as the season has gone along, has not necessarily performed too well aside from the game against Michigan. I thought the offensive line did pretty well there. They just did not play well against the Indiana Hoosiers, and Miami's going to be watching a lot of film of what Indiana did with the stunts, especially guys, lined up this way and then blitzing that way or rushing that way and crossing, right? Being able to do stuff like that, I think Miami's going to throw in their game plan, but I think Ohio State's going to wake up here now, right? Ohio State knows it's game time. It's go time. Bam. We weren't able to win the Big Ten championship. That's okay. We got a national championship to win. We have our honor to defend. They won it last year. They can absolutely win it again this year. And I just think that the moments where Carson Beck can be down and not play that well, if they rear up here and they show their face, it's not going to be a good day for Miami. I just don't know if the offense can do enough to get past this Buckeye defense. And again, much like Michigan, losing to Michigan was the best thing for that team last year. Ohio State, I don't think it's going to have the same impact that losing to Michigan did on last year's team. Losing to Indiana this year is just not going to have that same impact. Just no way, Jose. However, the Buckeyes have faced adversity, and I fully believe in order to win a national championship in today's day and age of college football, you need to have faced that adversity. There are just too many good teams to be able to not have faced something like that. So I, have teased it for a while, so I'll finally throw the prediction up there. I am going with the Ohio State Buckeyes to beat the Miami Hurricanes, and they will move on in the college football playoff semifinals now, where they will await an SEC opponent. But is it going to be the Georgia Bulldogs? Is it going to be the Ole Miss Rebels? I think this has the chance to be a fascinating game. If you remember, Ole Miss controlled most of that contest in the regular season, right? But then Georgia, they've done it a couple times this year where they've strung things together and they've held off opponents or they've come back and found ways to win. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Florida. Georgia has had to fight in some of these games this year, and their one loss to the Alabama Crimson Tide, they avenged in the SEC championship game. Georgia's fully capable of winning a national championship. We know Kirby Smart has done it before, and I just see Georgia getting the better of Ole Miss here. Would it surprise you to see Ole Miss win this game? Actually, no, because I believe that this is an Ole Miss team that, again, they fully showed it when they played Georgia in the regular season. They have everything that they need, and they are capable of beating this Georgia squad, right? Again, they showed it this year. They just couldn't finish the job. Maybe they finish the job in the All-State Sugar Bowl. By the way, the Buckeyes and Hurricanes would be playing in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, same place Ohio State walked off Texas with the scoop and score last year. Georgia will be playing in the All-State Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. So not really a home game for either of the two. However, again, still in the South, you got two Southern teams. They did it right. Georgia, to me, is just too physical. They're too tough. And I think if Gunnar Stockton stays mistake-free and just, he doesn't have to do anything flashy, plays himself a good, solid, clean game like we've seen him do a lot this year, Georgia's going to be able to roll there and beat Ole Miss. Now, if we end up getting this matchup, to which I think it would be a stunner if James Madison pulls off this upset against Oregon, probably going to make a lot of people rethink the way that they think about the college football playoff field and the way that it's structured. But Oregon and Texas Tech has the potential to be game of the year. Game of the year. This is an absolutely thrilling matchup that I believe takes place, in the Capital One Orange Bowl. It'll be in Miami Gardens in Hard Rock. So this is a fascinating game. I can't wait to watch this one. If it happens, which I believe it inevitably is going to happen, right? I believe those are the two teams that we're going to get to go to Hard Rock Stadium. Texas Tech's already there. Oregon just has to finish the job against James Madison, which I think they will do pretty easily tomorrow night. But just like I talked about Texas Tech being balanced, Oregon can be that there as well, right? I think Oregon has a really, really good shot here to make themselves a nice run. We saw Ohio State do it last year, right? Where, things just didn't quite go as planned in the regular season. And to an extent, you could say that for Oregon. You end up losing that game to Indiana at home. Dante Moore just doesn't play his best game. You face a lot of adversity, right? You don't beat Wisconsin by as much as you would have liked to. You almost lose on the road to Iowa. Washington gave you some troubles at times, but really no doubt in that game, really no doubt against USC. Again, much like Texas Tech, they've got a lot of great weapons. Coy Eakin, getting the bigger one there for Texas Tech, which is why I'm going to look at it right now so I don't, forget anyone by. There we go. So while I'm looking that up, we'll talk about these two defenses. Right? Again, the mind and the memory are not working right with me right now. Here we go for Texas Tech. Douglas, Corey Douglas, Reggie Virgil, all coming back to me now. Actually, I don't even know if it's Corey Douglas, but Douglas, Virgil, Eakin, Caleb Douglas. See, that's where the mind starts to go. You get older and the mind just starts to deteriorate. But Douglas, Virgil, Eakin, even their tight end, a guy by the name of, excuse me, guy by the name of Terrence Carter. He's been fantastic this season as well. So Texas Tech has got a lot of weapons that they can employ. They got a lot of guys in the backfield they can, put forth as well. Cameron Dickey has been a great weapon out of the backfield this season. Jacoby Williams is another one. Texas Tech has got balance offensively. They've got balance defensively. But when I'm looking at this Oregon team, and, you're matching them up here with what we're seeing in this Texas Tech team. I think they're going to have a hard time handling this defensive front of Texas Tech. I believe the Red Raiders can do a whole lot to make life very uncomfortable for Dante Moore and this Oregon football team. But at the end of the day, I do think Dante Moore is going to end up prevailing here. Would it surprise me to see Texas Tech win this one? No. Not at all, man. Again, Texas Tech is a legit team. I quite genuinely think that if they put everything together, they can go win a national championship. I think Texas Tech is that good, but I think Oregon is going to find their way here to slip through and really start to turn things on and play at a high level, especially if this wide receiver room gets healthy. Again, they've had some injury problems and things. Malik Benson has not been fully healthy this season. DeCarrion Moore has not been fully healthy this season. So relying on Kenyon Sadiq, who even went down with an injury in that game against Washington. This is an Oregon team that's very banged up, and that, if that continues on New Year's Day, that very well could be the downfall of that Oregon program. However, I choose to believe that they're going to get healthy, they're going to get right, and Dan Lanning has been in situations like this before. He's been coaching big games, right? That's what he's done since he's got to Oregon. Texas Tech had a great year, man, and they have a hell of a football team. I think Dan Lanning is the better coach. I think he's the better game planner. And I think he's going to help get this one done. So in my semifinals, you got 3 Big Ten teams and an SEC opponent there as well. Now, when it comes to trying to predict Indiana and Oregon, I think this one is a straight toss-up. These two teams were so evenly matched in Autzen Stadium this year, and Indiana, if not for that pick 6, it doesn't look as bad on the scoreboard. It's still a loss for Oregon, yeah, but it just doesn't look as bad on the scoreboard. Quite genuinely, I've gone back and forth on this one because I think if these two teams match up again, Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore are both going to play outstanding. At this point, now, when you get this far down into the college football playoff bracket, you have to believe, right, that those two are going to be healthy, right? And I'm talking about Moore, and I'm talking about, oh my goodness, I just had his name. Benson. There you go. DeCarrion Moore, Malik Benson. Oregon gets to this point. I think they're going to be healthy enough to be able to have a great impact in this game. And I think Oregon just overall plays better than the last time they did a round against this Hoosier team. Really, really tough to beat a team once this year. I just don't see Indiana beating Oregon again. So I got the Ducks moving on to the national championship game. That could turn into a 1 here. Oregon's got all the necessary pieces that they need. They've, I think, kind of quietly have been motoring here and playing some good football down the stretch, even with some of the injuries that they have. So I'm going to go with the Ducks over the Hoosiers to get into the national championship game in Ohio State and Georgia. Rematch, of course, of the Peach Bowl. Everybody knows what happened at the stroke of midnight. For the Buckeye fans that may not remember, one Noah Ruggles. No more needs to be said from that point forward. Ohio State and Georgia is a fascinating matchup if we get it in this college football playoff bracket. Quite genuinely, I'm going to spoil my prediction here for national champion. I think the winner of Ohio State, Georgia wins your national championship. I just believe that those two teams, and it's, no discredit to what Indiana, Oregon, Texas Tech, even Alabama or Oklahoma, if they get to that point in a national championship game, no discredit to what they've done all year long, especially to the Indiana Hoosiers for, the best season in program history. The only way that they could, match it is if they go win a national championship. If it doesn't pan out this season, Indiana is looking like, they're going to get it done this season, and they could very well get it done this year. Obviously, I have them losing to Oregon, but when you talk about Ohio State and Georgia, I'm going to, do something to what I did last year, right? And take the logo away for, ever, right? We stay unbiased on the show. What happened last year, and I got my playoff bracket perfect last year, so we're trying to do it again this year. But what happened last year with the playoff bracket was you take a look at it, Ohio State has sputtered. There are some really good teams, and the most talented team in the country just ended up winning out. Ohio State was loaded top to bottom. They had the best roster, the best players. And at the end of the day, the longest playoff road in college football history went to the team that just boat raced everybody. And that's what Ohio State has done throughout the course of this season up until they got to the Big Ten championship game. So I am going to rely on my eyes, and I'm going to trust what I've seen, and that this Buckeye team is the best team in the country. Despite what we saw in Indianapolis, there were still some good things you can take away from that game. But this Ohio State team has just looked like the best team for the majority of this season. So I will go with Ohio State to beat Georgia, even though I fully believe Georgia's more than capable of winning that game, and Georgia's more than capable of winning a national championship. But again, I'm not going to, overthink the room on this one here, guys. I'm going to trust what my eyeballs have been telling me all season long, and that's that Ohio State's the most talented team. So, hey, you get a rematch of last year's Rose Bowl game where the Buckeyes just put the thumping on the Ducks 34-0 before anybody could really even blink an eye. Well, 21-0 before anyone could blink an eye, and then 34-0 before half. Well, again, Oregon did get that late touchdown. I think it ended up being 34-8. Regardless, Oregon's going to want their shot, right? Oregon's going to want their get back. My eyes have told me that Ohio State's been the best team in the country all year long, and I really have no reason to go against my brain and my instincts now. And so for that very reason, I've had this prediction not since the beginning, since week 1 has changed, right? I've had Ohio State as my national champion, and to me, there's no reason to change that now. I believe that Ohio State, throughout the course of the year, they're the most complete team. I think when in a vacuum, you get the best brand of football that any team in the field can play, I think Ohio State's brand of football is going to win out. And I believe you're going to see the Buckeyes repeat as national champs for the first time in their program history. And I believe you're going to see, again, this Ohio State team write a new chapter. That's what last year was all about for this program, and Ryan Day was writing that new chapter. They're trying to do something that this team didn't do last year, right? They already accomplished one of those things and beat Michigan. They did another in getting a first-round bye. They just couldn't clinch that conference championship game. But I think this is the Buckeye team that has proven themselves all year long to be physically tough defensively. They now have faced adversity. Great. I think you're going to see this team rebound off of it and wind up as national champions at the end of the day. They're probably going to be the most popular pick to win the national championship. But as we go back and take a look at my predicted bracket one more time, keeping in mind that Ohio State is my national champion, I genuinely can't wait for this college football playoff bracket. I have been really, really excited about what we're going to see in the postseason all year long. And I think this is going to be a great college football playoff. Alabama and Oklahoma kicks off in less than an hour. And I will get off here pretty soon so that all of you may go enjoy the festivities of Alabama and Oklahoma with some good food, beverages of choice, adult beverage. If you are of age, of course, be responsible as always. Followed again tomorrow, Miami, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Tulane, Oregon, James Madison. This is going to be a fascinating playoff. Just look at some of the potential matchups that we could get here, right? Georgia, Ole Miss, that is a rematch. We already have some exciting first-round matchups, and I think Ole Miss, Tulane is being slept on. I think that has the potential to get interesting, even though I think Ole Miss is going to wind up winning the game anyway. Texas Tech and Oregon. Oh my goodness, is that going to be a phenomenal game if we get it? You have the potential rematch for Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, Oregon in the national title game, Ohio State, Indiana rematch from the Big Ten championship game, Ohio State, Georgia. We all know what happened in the Peach Bowl in 2022. Ohio State wants to rectify that, while Georgia is just a really, really good football team, right? I even think Alabama, Indiana has it. Like, this bracket has so many opportunities to provide us with compelling thrilling, interesting matchups. And I know what people are going to say about Ole Miss, Tulane, Oregon, and James Madison. Sure, right? The one still has to play the 16 in March Madness. We can't just say, nah, they're probably going to win, right? We've seen 16s beat ones. This is the second year of the 12-team field. Maybe this is the year we see a G5 knock off one of these teams, right? Boise couldn't do it last year after getting the first round bye against Penn State. You got Tulane there that I think is well more than capable of doing it. James Madison, it's going to take a special effort, but I do think they have capable pieces to be able to pull off something like that. Who knows, man? All I do know is that this playoff bracket is going to be really, really fun to watch. It's been really fun to predict, and this is my predicted bracket. So this is what I will be sticking with throughout the college football, throughout the duration of the college football playoff. Obviously, as I inevitably get games wrong, I was, well, maybe not surprised, but ended up getting the bracket right last year. We're looking to go a perfect, how many games is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're looking to go a perfect 11 for 11 this season as well. Duh, that math is easy. I could have done that in my head. So that's what we're looking for. But when I inevitably get games wrong, hey, it's okay. We're still going to preview games as they are happening. I'll have more fancy graphics. Hopefully I'll have better signal and Wi-Fi next time I'm doing this as well. So I do apologize for everything that's gone on with the face cam today and the signal overall. Again, I can't help it. It's the reality of the situation that I currently am in. And to avoid you looking at a very pixely, blurry, laggy me, we're going to leave the playoff bracket up. If y'all have any questions, I'll stay on here for about 5 more minutes. This is a really informal first stream. They will get more formal as they go along. We'll probably keep them fairly informal throughout the remainder of this season. But moving forward, guys, this channel is going to be going through some changes because I still want to be able to provide all the content I would like to all of you. And I want you to enjoy what you see. And I don't want you all to be guessing at where I just quite simply do not want you all to be guessing when I may be uploading videos. So I'm going to formulate a plan here again. Things are going to change after the college football playoff. But for right now, you can look forward to some live shows. You can look forward to talking with me about college football. And I also want to be able to interact with as many people as possible. You, dear viewer, I really want to interact with you. Get your guys' thoughts. Be more like that guy that you can just come on here and talk to college football about, right? I still want to break down, analyze, do all that, but I mainly just want to sit here, talk about college football with some friends. So that, of course, is the big main goal. All right, we are going to end the stream here as people are bowing out, but thank you all so much for watching. If you're watching this on replay, have fun with all the chaos, but I will see all of you guys in the next stream. Have fun watching the college football playoff. And if I don't get to talk to you before then, have a happy holiday season, everybody. I wish all of you great college football watching, a safe and happy holidays again if I don't talk to you. But hey, there's no reason why we can't wish that upon each other more than once, right? So until the next stream, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys in the next stream. Goodbye.